Ехо, здравейте, олимпийци! Аз съм Рони и съм тук за вас, за да чета на английски поредната история от кратките истории на О'Хенри. Така че настанете се удобно и приятно слушане, скъпи олимпийци. Let's go! Историята, която ще чета за вас днес, се казва The Defeat of the City. Започваме. The Defeat of the City. Robert Walmsley arrived in the city to the battle. He came out of the fight a winner of both fame and money. On the other hand, the city had taken control of him. It gave him what he demanded, but then changed everything about him. In his appearance, his speech, his manner, and his ideas, he had become a big city person, a Manhattan gentleman, if you will. 6 years earlier, Bob Walmsley was living a much slower, more peaceful life on his family's farm in the New York state. He was born and raised on that farm. Neighbors and friends were surprised when Bob decided to give up this country life and head down to the fast, crowded, very different ways of the city. 6 years later, Robert Walmsley had become a well-known and successful young lawyer. Before long, many of the city's rich and famous people were calling him a friend. He knew everyone who was important in business and law. Also, he went to all the right parties, meeting many of the city's young ladies. The height of his success came when he married Alicia Vanderpool. She was born into a very rich and powerful family. She was raised to lead the kind of life that few people will ever experience. Many young men tried to reach above their class to take her hand in marriage. All of them had failed, all except Robert Walmsley. He was a lucky man, and he knew it. He found himself on the top of the mountain. If it was cold up there and a little bit foreign, he did not show it. He was trying very hard to live up to his new position. Robert Walmsley was proud of his wife. Sometime after the wedding and honeymoon, Alicia found a letter written to Robert by his mother. It was a simple letter about simple things. It told about the farm, the health of the animals, the apples and eggs, the plants and weather, and of course, the family. "Why have I not been shown your mother's letters?" asked Alicia. The sound of her voice made you think of winter time, of snow lying on the ground. "Your mother," she continued, "would like us to make a visit to the farm. I have never seen a farm. We shall go for a week or two, Robert." "Yes, we will," agreed Robert. "I did not tell you of the letter because I thought you would not care to go. I am very pleased with your decision." "I will write to her myself," answered Alicia. "Felice will prepare my bags at once. 7, I think, will be enough. I don't suppose your mother gives many house parties, does she?" Robert got up and, speaking like a lawyer, tried to tell his new wife that life on the farm was very simple. She would not need 6 of those 7 cases. His own words sounded strange in his ears. He had not realized how much of a city person he had become. 1 week later, they found themselves at the little country train station about 5 hours out from the city. A smiling young man rode up in a horse and wagon and gave Robert a loud welcome. "Hello, Mr. Walmsley. I see you found your way back at last. Sorry I couldn't bring the car for you, but Dad is using it on the farm today. I hope you will excuse me for not wearing a dress suit to meet you. It's not 6 o'clock yet, you know." "I'm glad to see you, Tom," said Robert, holding his brother's hand. "Yes, I found my way back at last. It's been over 2 years since the last time, but it will be more often after this, my boy." At that moment, Alicia appeared from around the corner of the station. She looked cool in the summer heat, wearing a light summer dress. Her skin was white as snow. Tom felt a bit uneasy as he looked down at his own dirty blue jeans. During the drive home, he kept most of his thoughts to himself. They drove homeward. The sun was low in the sky, turning the fields of wheat a rich golden color. The city was far away. The road continued past hills and woods. A light summer wind followed behind them. By and by, the grey farmhouse appeared in the distance. They saw the long row of trees running from the house to the road. They smelled the wild flowers that grew along the nearby stream, and they listened to the musical sounds of the birds and bugs. It was as though every living thing was singing to Robert Walmsley. Each one said, "You found your way back at last, have you?" The old voices of the soul spoke to him. Rocks and stones and gates and fences all called him by name. He remembered all of them because he had grown up with them. The country had smiled at him like an old love, and now his heart felt happy to be back. While Robert was enjoying the change from city to country, he noticed something strange about Alicia. She suddenly seemed like a stranger to him, as though she didn't belong here. Never before had she seemed so distant, so colorless, high and unreal. Yet he was still proud of her as she sat there next to him in the old wagon. That night, after the greetings had been said and the dinner was over, the whole family went outside to sit upon the front steps. Alicia sat rather silently in a beautiful grey dress. She was seated next to Robert's mother, who was talking to her about cooking and kitchens. Tom sat on the top step. Sisters Millie and Pam sat on the lower step. Father sat in the big armchair with one of its arms missing. Buff, the yellow dog, lay down in the middle of everybody. Robert's heart was light with wonderful memories. The city was far away. Robert noticed that his father was without his favorite smoking pipe, so he got up and went inside, returning shortly with the pipe and lighting it for his father. He also noticed that his dad was wearing his heavy work shoes and offered to take them off his feet. As Robert was pulling off the second shoe, he pulled a little too hard and fell backward. Everyone laughed. Tom said something humorous about Robert's position. Robert quickly took off his coat and jumped on his brother. "Okay, you country boy," he cried to Tom. "I'll show you who is still the strong one around here." Soon the two of them were rolling around on the ground together, having a friendly fight. Meanwhile, the rest of the family watched with delight. Finally, when they were too tired to continue, Robert and Tom came back to the steps, each one talking about the strength of the other. At that point, Sister Millie had something to say about her city brother. Robert picked up a bug from a nearby plant, then held it to Millie's face. She jumped up, shouting, and began running down the road. Robert ran after her. Before long, they returned arm in arm. Robert was full of life. He could not stop being happy. He sang songs and told stories. Back on the farm, he felt like a boy again. His family watched him proudly. They seemed to be as happy as he was. At one point, Alicia moved as though she were about to speak, but she did not. Rather, she sat without moving or talking. Nobody knew what she was thinking. A little later, she said that she was tired and would be going up to her room. On the way, she passed Robert, who was standing at the door. His face was red from play and his clothes were dirty. He no longer looked like the famous Robert Walmsley of the city. As Alicia passed, Robert started suddenly. For the moment, he had forgotten that she was even present. Without looking at him, she went upstairs. After that, the fun grew quiet. An hour or so passed in talk before Robert himself said goodbye and went up. She was standing by the window when he entered their room. She had not yet changed her clothes for bed. Just outside the window, in full flower, was a large apple tree. Robert moved towards the window. He expected her to be displeased with him. Now she knew that he was really a country boy at heart and not the fancy big city man that she had met and married. He knew that the cool, white Vanderpool lady would not be happy with such a simple man. His own actions had given him away. All the form that the city had given him had now fallen away with his first fresh taste of country life. Robert, said the cool voice of his judge, I thought I married a gentleman. Yes, thought Robert, she was going to say the words he did not want to hear, yet even as he waited for her to finish, he was looking out upon the great apple tree and wondering how many apples he had eaten from that tree over the years. She continued, I thought I married a gentleman. The voice went on, but why was she coming to stand so close by this side? But I find that I have married. Was this Alicia talking? Something better. A man, Bob dear, kiss me, won't you? The city was far away. Олимпийци, надявам се, че ви е било интересно. Както винаги, историите на О'Хенри имат неочакван край. Ще се видим отново скоро. Чао!
Скъпи олимпийци, не забравяйте да се абонирате за нашия YouTube канал. Натиснете абониране, след това камбанката, за да получавате известие за всички нови видеа, които качваме. Благодарим ви, че бяхме заедно.